At Storage Switzerland, we talk a lot about service level objectives, things like recovery point objective and recovery time objective. The challenge is the expectation from users to meet these time frames is becoming more and more strict. And so we have to do things faster and return things to service quicker. So in the traditional storage model, where we had a bunch of servers backing up, sharing storage and then backing up to some sort of backup system. The problem is now that just takes too long to move data across the network and then store it on another device. Not saying that we don't want to do that, but counting on that as our first line of recovery can be a challenge. So instead, what we want to have happen is we really want to start leveraging snapshots more. And that, of course, is the ability of a storage system, very common nowadays, to take point-in-time snapshots of data. So we can do one maybe at 1 p.m., one maybe at 3 p.m., and then one maybe at 5 p.m. And then these snapshots this main volume will continue to update, and these snapshots will hold point-in-time images, if you will, of the data that was represented at 1 o'clock. So if there's a problem, I can trigger one of these and fail back to it. Now, of course, the challenge with snapshots is if this whole storage system fails, or worst case, if this whole site fails, obviously all my protection just went with it. Now, so the way around that is to replicate to your second site via something typically called snapshot replication, where you just take one of these images or every image, and then it replicates only the changed data to the secondary site. So this network connection doesn't have to be very robust. And then at 3 o'clock, we'd replicate the differences between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock over to the second site. And then at 5 o'clock, we'd replicate the differences between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock and replicate them over here. Now, most storage systems have the ability to do snapshots. Many storage systems have the ability to replicate those snapshots to a second site. But very, very few systems have the ability to leverage what an increasing number of organizations have nowadays is third, fourth, and maybe even fifth sites. And what you'd really want to be able to do if you have these sites is you'd really want to be able to leverage them and put data either in all locations or at least distribute data. So if I had another volume here and I was taking a 1 p.m. and a 2 p.m., maybe I replicate those snapshots down to this site, and then another volume, maybe I replicate those down to my fourth site. So that in the event of a disaster, like I'm drawing here, I could have part of my working data set come up in the second site, part of it come up in the third site, part of it come up in the fourth site. A site could also be a local storage system right on premise that's also receiving replication. So that if, again, there's a failure here of just the storage system, I don't have to fail over to one of my remote sites. I can just leverage this. Now, we go in great detail talking about how primary storage should protect itself in our webinar. If you click on the attachment below, you'll be able to access that directly. Thanks for joining me. I'm George Crump, Lead Analyst for Storage Switzerland.